What's going on, people? It's your boy John here again. I'm not in the forest, as you can tell. I'm at my humble abode. It's nice and comfy here. It was raining when I was outside, and I did go for a little forest walk, but I kept on coming across people. There was a few teenagers there, and I decided to just have a chat with them. You know, I'm always going to choose socializing over the videos because socializing is fun and it's enjoyable. And why do you not want to speak to your fellow man and woman? You know, it's always a pleasure when I get people coming around me and I can have a conversation with them and chat and whatever. But originally, when I was making the video in the forest, I was talking about the MBTI Myers-Briggs personality test, and I was talking about how basically what it is, to give you a little rough down summary of what it is. The test is basically a way to find out how your cognitive functions, what your cognitive functions are, and how you navigate this world. And I happen to be an INFJ, so that is the introverted intuitive feeler, the extroverted feeler. And the most important thing about the INFJ is its first dominant function, which is introverted intuition. If you're not familiar on the whole thing, the whole jazz, if you're not familiar with it, go and just search up on online, find an INFJ, your MBTI summary or whatever. You can get a summary of what the cognitive functions are like. But for me, I'm just going to give you a little summary of what the introverted intuition is like in daily life. Okay, so what introverted intuition is, it's a way for the human being, for the person to get it's basically this greater intelligence that works in the background of the INFJ. It's always taking in information and it's always breaking it down in the subconscious. So it uses extroverted sensing to scan the environment, and it uses all of the other functions. So it uses extroverted feeling, it uses introverted thinking, it uses extroverted sensing, but it doesn't really use them in a conscious way. It uses all of these functions in a subconscious way. It takes in all of the data from the outside world and puts it into the subconscious. And the subconscious works through sifting through this information. And when it sifts through this information, it does so to achieve a network of recognition for how the world works through pattern recognition. And it's not a conscious thing. I gotta emphasize that it's something that happens subconsciously, but the way it externalizes itself in the human being is through these zoning out moments. Okay, so a lot of INFJs, a lot of introverted intuitive types, they tend to be very spacey people. You know, they tend to just, you might be having a conversation with them and they'll pay an exceptional amount of attention to you. They'll have laser eye contact, they'll look into your soul, they'll really know how to figure you out. They're very much, you know, sear into the soul type people. They can read you right off the bat. But occasionally, you know, especially if they're in big social groups, these guys will be the very zoned out ones. It's almost like they're always smoking weed, but they're very zoned out. And sometimes it can take a bit to get their attention. For me, when I tend to zone out, I don't even know that I'm doing it. Okay, it just happens. When you're zoned out, you're not thinking consciously. It's sort of like your brain, your mind, your whole body just takes a moment to just stop everything. And you just, you know, zone out. You just sort of stare into space. You're not thinking about anything. You're not, it looks like, to the outside person, it looks like you're in deep thought. But you're not. You're just zoned out. What that is that's a moment. It's a moment of where your subconscious is just putting all of its energy into finding out what the solution to the problem was on a subconscious level. So there's an issue, there's a problem, or there's a task that needs to be solved, or there's something that the subconscious is working towards figuring out, and it will put most of its energy into finding out what that problem is. So you could be socializing, you could be outside, you could be doing all sorts of shit, but because your subconscious is working continuously, it's continuously taking in data from the outside world, continuously internalizing it and trying to sift through and find the patterns that can make it an understandable thing, so that eventually one day or one moment or 1 hour or 1 minute, whatever it is, you will be hit with this aha moment. You could be in the shower, you could be taking a walk, you could be literally doing your bed, it could be when you just get right out of bed. You will just be hit with this aha moment where you will get a conscious statement which will just come through the head, and it will feel like you've just found a solution to a problem, but you didn't even know what the problem was. You will just be hit with a statement of truth regarding it. And the thing is, you won't even know that you've come to the conclusion. It's not like the aha moment is like, I figured out life. No, it's more like the solution's there, you just say it, and you're surprised that you even came to that conclusion. You're like, I didn't know that before, but now I know. But you only get that once you've thought that thought, or you've said it in a conversation. A lot of the times my aha moments come at really weird moments. I could be just getting out of bed, fixing making my bed or whatever. I could get into the shower, and as I turn the shower dial and the water hits my head, something to do with the water hitting my head and getting that feeling of water on my skin will then bring out a thought, and the thought will have something to do with that problem that my subconscious was trying to figure out, and I will then have the solution to it, and I won't even know. Here's the thing, I won't even know that I'm solving a problem. It just happens. It's a very magical quality. I do see it as a magical quality because it always hits me at very weird moments, and it's like I've got this gigantic bit of knowledge that's just sitting in my subconscious, and then when it's consciously revealed to me, I'm always surprised by its content. And that allows me to come across as a lot more intelligent than I actually am. Yeah, because that's one of the biggest compliments that I've got my entire life, is I'm very intelligent. Everyone has told me that I'm very intelligent, that I think very deeply, that I'm very wise for my age, blah blah blah. And I never really saw it the same way they were seeing it, because they were seeing someone who's talking a lot and who's hitting a lot of these deep truths, but I'm not even doing it consciously. It's just happening because my subconscious is very tuned to finding out patterns of recognition, mainly to do with the human condition. That's my speciality. I've always been interested in finding out what the human condition is, how does it work, what drives it, what's its purpose, what is its motivations to do things, why do humans do the things that they do. And that led me to having a very deep interest in the humanities. So, for example, in my A levels, my main subjects were history, theology, and psychology. Without me even knowing it, I was already taking subjects that had a lot to do with the human condition, and finding out how does the human condition work, and what is its motivations, again, what's its purpose, how does it function, what's it all about, what's all the jazz about. I didn't even know that I liked the humanities for that reason. I just had an interest to them. But it was funny how all three of those subjects, theology, which is philosophy, religious philosophy, psychology, of course, which is to do with the human mind and how the cognitive functions work in human behavior, and of course history, which is seeing theology and psychology throughout the years in history, and how did it work, how did these past humans deal with problems, how was their condition like. So history is the story of humans, psychology is looking at the scientific basis for why they do it, and then theology is looking at the religious slash spiritual slash philosophical undertones to why human beings do what they do. And it's funny because all three of those subjects are still my most favorite subjects, and they're the subjects that I'm always reading about. I'm always finding out more. In a few years' time, I hope to become a clinical psychologist. So that is a very specialized form of psychology to do with finding out clinical diagnosis in the human condition, and why, most importantly, why human beings have certain pathological mental conditions which drive them to do certain things on a conscious or even subconscious level. I want to specialize in the subconscious element. That made me want to actually specialize in psychotherapy, and psychodynamics and psychoanalysis. But I've decided to do clinical psychology because that's more specific in the diagnosis and the treatment of these things. And of course, I can then specialize in psychotherapy as the main mechanism to help people figure out what their problems are, and to help them get on their feet and to become well-rounded human beings so that they can reach their potential. At the end of the day, that is my life's purpose. My life's purpose is to be a quote-unquote healer. I want to help people. I want to help them reach their potential. I want to help them be the best version of who they are, because at the end of the day, that's what's driven me. You know, my interest in theology, psychology, and history was all to do with me figuring out why I'm the way I am. Why am I to find myself, right? INFJs, if you go on Reddit forums and you just generally go on YouTube and you see other INFJs and you see what they're all about, a lot of them don't know who they are. They don't know who they are. They have no idea who they are, because they're always, every time they're with people, they're always focused on the other person, and they're always focused on absorbing that other person's energy. And especially if INFJs are very novice, they're novice-like and they're not skilled when it comes to other people, it can be very difficult for them to actually know who they are. Partly my journey in life is to find out who I am and make a very sharp separation between me and the other person. I'm on that level now. I'm on that stage of development where I can finally say I know who I am, although I don't know everything about who I am. I don't know all the intricacies, but what I do know is there's a separate human being here in me, and there's another human being over there. Yes, we share similarities. Yes, we have the same life essence. Yes, we come from the same source, which is, for me, it's the Almighty, the Lord. But we're still unique. There is still a difference, a separation. But I think that for the INFJ, the life's purpose is to discover oneself, to find out oneself, and what better way to do it than to study subjects like history, like philosophy, like psychology, because you actually get to scientifically and systematically look and analyze at why you do certain things and how and why you are the way you are. So INFJs are very driven to the humanities, because we're very much focused on figuring out why humans are the way they are. We love talking and socializing to people. You know, you can be socially awkward as an INFJ if you're young and you haven't had a lot of social experience, especially as a child, because you probably were the weird one when you were a child. I was the weird one. I was the one who didn't fit in with everyone else. I was very much in my own world at all times, but when I did socialize, I had very deep and intimate connections with the people that I socialized with, and they really, really liked my company. So that was a big indicator to what my main values are, my skills are when it comes to dealing with other people. Great interpersonal skills is one of them. So why not take advantage of that? Why not make that something that I do every single day now? So one of my practices nowadays is to socialize as much as I can, so that I can learn more about human beings, to get more information into the subconscious, and figure out how to navigate myself through this world. But yeah, introverted intuition is a very funny thing. It's a very funny thing, because when I start talking like I'm talking right now, I can just keep talking if it's to do with a particular subject or a train of thought. The train of thought is not something that I consciously do. I'm not thinking as I'm talking, I'm just talking. And it's just coming straight from the subconscious, and it's coming to the external world. Extroverted intuition then, sorry, no, not extroverted intuition, extroverted feeling is then best utilized when I'm in this state of mind, when I'm using introverted intuition to externalize what's going on in the subconscious. It's difficult for me to go straight into extroverted feeling. It's not very difficult. I can do it, and I'm getting better and better at it, but making that your dominant function is going to come across as quote unquote socially awkward, because you haven't got something that's driving your extroverted feeling. All right, like my mum, she's an extroverted feeler in her dominant function, so she can just start speaking to anyone and she will just be talking, and she won't stop. Whereas me, if I've just met someone or I've just started a conversation, I'm going to keep the conversation. It will come across as if I'm an INTJ, so I'll be very reserved, and I'll be very introverted thinky. So I will be externalizing my thoughts, but it will be in a thinking, very abrupt, assertive way. I've noticed that about myself. When I first start a conversation, I'm very blunt, but then as we get into the conversation, and as I get a feel of what this conversation is, where it's going, all of a sudden now the introverted intuition has been activated, and it's using extrovert feeling to communicate what's going on. So I now can present my ideas in a human way, in a very persuasive way, and in a very compelling way. So it's a nice bunch. It's a nice stack of functions which are really unique to the INFJ, I think. And it's really fun to speak with other introverted intuitive types. So there's the INTJ. Most of my friends in the past have been INTJs. I never knew that, and I haven't had many friends. I've only had a few friends, when I say friends, I mean very close friends, friends that I speak to on a regular basis, and we have a deep connection. I've only had maybe 2 or 3 of these in my life, and these people were all INTJs, or they were ENTPs. ENTPs and INTJs. These two were the most favorite. When I look at the other friends that I had, the people who were really enamored by me and they really just liked me, but we didn't maybe have a deep connection. We just had a fun time together, but they just liked to listen. They didn't really offer much. They just liked to listen. These people tended to be INFPs, both men and women. I've noticed that INFPs. I don't know if I've met any INFJs, but I do know that other INFJs, they sort of hover. They don't really know who I am, but they've seen me speak, they've seen me talk, they've seen a few of my statements, and they just hover, they orbit, they just hang around. I wonder if I'm going to meet them one day and actually have a deep connection with them, who knows, but I know that if I do have any INFJs on my friends list on Facebook or Instagram, I know that they always like my pictures, they always like the comments, or they always look at my stories, they're always just hovering around, just taking a look at what this guy's saying, because at the end of the day, they're using the same cognitive functions, and they will probably come to similar conclusions. I'm not going to say the same conclusions, but similar conclusions, or at least they can admire the train of thought or the process behind coming to a certain conclusion. I do know that the most common friend that I've met throughout my life is basically the same person but with different faces, and that's the ENTP. Shout out to the ENTPs out there. All of my friends in the past have always been ENTPs, the ones that actually had a good connection with and I spoke to on a regular basis, or at least a semi-regular basis. ENTPs, because they're extroverted, they can externalize their ideas and they can talk a lot more. So they're not afraid to communicate with me. But a lot of the introverted types, they tend to be shy. They do tend to be shy. They tend to shy away from other people, especially if you're loud. I can be loud. When I do externalize my thoughts, my ideas, my feelings, I am loud. I do come across as an extrovert. But that's just because I have extroverted feeling as my secondary type. So when I communicate with the world, it is through extroverted feeling. So it will come across as if I am an extrovert. But that doesn't mean I necessarily am an extrovert. But yeah, anyway, I'm just going to leave it at that. Just a little speech on to do with the MBTI, cognitive functions and everything. If you're interested in it, you can go to 16 Personalities. You can go to, there's a few websites online that you can actually do a bit of research in and find out what your type is. I'm the INFJ. Everyone loves the INFJ for some reason. You see Redditors and on YouTube and everything, everyone's talking about the INFJ and how they're so enamored by it. I can see why you'd be enamored by it, but when you're actually the INFJ, it's not really, I've gotten to the place where I've accepted what I am, and I've just realized that the positives that I have, the benefits that I have, and the struggles that I have, it's just a part of being who I am. So there's no point fighting it and wishing to be someone else. Especially when I was a bit younger, I wished that I was a sensor. I wish that I was just someone who always lived in the present moment, who didn't think too much and could just act on instinct. That is something I'm working on, but that's not who I am. I'm not that kind of person. That's just not how my cognitive function is wired to be. I can emulate it, I can try to go towards it, and I can get better at it, but it's not going to come naturally to me. It's something that I actually have to work for. Whereas sensors, I find that sensors wish that they could be as quote unquote intuitive and as intelligent as the intuitive types. They wish that they could do it. So again, I found that sensors, especially sensors who are thinking as a dominant function, they tend to be attracted to the INFJ as well, because the INFJ represents the things that they're not. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. Hope you enjoy the video, and let me know what your type is, and let me know if you resonate with any of the things that I've spoken about. All right, take it easy.